You are listening to the EVRYMAN podcast. My name is Dan Doty, and this is episode 42 with Josh Radnor. It is a beautiful sunny morning in Montana today. It feels like spring is creeping in. It feels like change is in the air. I am happy to be home, and I have been recovering and recuperating for the past couple days. Last weekend, we had our biggest and most powerful open source retreat yet. You might hear in my voice, my voice is still a little bit, it's coming back. I lost a good portion of it. It's still coming back. I don't even know where to start or where to begin speaking about the weekend. It was ridiculous. Each time that we've done this retreat, this is our flagship experience. It is what we started with. It's what this company and this whole movement was based off of in the beginning. It was the first actual real offering we put in the world. And it works. It's working. It is having a bigger and deeper and more important impact on the men who participate than I ever could have asked for, that I ever could have wished for. And that's an interesting feeling, to have expectations exceeded and to have this result in this impact that is so far beyond anything that I ever thought of. It's such an interesting feeling, such an interesting place to be. I am so proud of our team of Sasha Lewis and Owen Marcus, Aaron Blaine, Lucas Crump, and then all of the co-facilitators that were there leading small groups. We have something. We have some magic amongst us, and something bigger is being created here, far bigger than the sum of all of its parts. And I'm just floored and honored. And the biggest word that came for me after this retreat was humble, humility. I feel like I'm learning what that actually means. I feel like maybe I've played around with that idea or that feeling before, but it never actually meant what it means today. And all of you men that showed up, I bow down to you. It is remarkable what happens when men show up, and I would say humans show up, to just be fully present with each other and make room for things to be said that haven't been said, and make room for things to be felt that haven't been safe to feel before. And the way that this mix, that this magical human ability we all have to be there from each other. One of my close friends, Sean Helvey, he's been on the show and he was at the retreat. And he, at the end, shared this sentence that means so much to me. And it's that, so he's a counselor. He's a licensed counselor in the mental health field. And he shared that, he saw that we can see a future now where people help people. We don't all necessarily have to go to counselors and therapists, although that's fine, that we are practicing and sharing this ability to be there for each other on a level that is just astounding and so fulfilling and healing and necessary and needed and beautiful. The last 90 minutes of this last retreat was one of the most beautiful things I've ever been a part of. And, we're just there for 48 hours and we have this series of experiences and challenging things that we go through. But at the end, I look around the room and literally 55 guys sitting there, and I can not only can I see who they really are, their true self, like their full and alive individual human personality. They feel it. Everybody feels it. It's not some unique thing to me to see this. It's like everybody's sitting there in their fullness, their humanity. And it is, I don't know, it's life-changing. It's life-changing for me. And this has become my existence. This has become my job. This is my focus. This is what I do. And yet every time it happens, it just blows me away. And I have, it takes a lot of energy from me in a way that is really interesting, because it's, it's not that physically demanding. It doesn't seem to be any sort of demanding that I could put a finger on. But after these things, I need a couple days to, what I want? I just want to basically sit in a warm bath and be fed food and get massages 10 times a day, sleep a lot. And, I don't know, just like check out. So I've been doing some of that. And coming home to my family and Elise and Duke, it is such an amazing, I'm such a blessed human being right now. I have such an incredible life. And I'm so grateful and so thankful and so excited for where this is all going. And we have a few more opportunities coming up in the near future for you to get in on this too. So our MELT training is just about sold out. That's for men who want to facilitate. You can find this on our website, everyman.co. It's in a couple weeks on the East Coast in the Berkshires and Massachusetts. A month after that, we have our next open source in the Berkshires. Again, we'll have about 40, 50 men together Can't wait for that. And then I'm starting to get the real excited feeling for our first wilderness expedition in Yellowstone this year. That's in the 3rd week of June. We've sold probably about half our spots for that. So if you're interested, reach out, talk to us, ask us questions, or just go ahead and sign up. It's a really, really incredible and special experience. And this summer, this first one, myself and Aaron Blaine are going to be leading that. And if you're part of what we do and you've met Aaron, you know how special that is and how amazing it's going to be to have him out there. All right, enough of that. I am so floored to introduce this podcast. Josh Radnor is an actor and a musician and a director and just a creative powerhouse. And he was at this last retreat in Joshua Tree and participated. And I just have such warmth for him. We hung out after the retreat. And he's got a lot of incredible stuff going on right now. He's recently started and formed a band with Ben Lee. It's called Radnor and Lee. And he has a new show premiering on NBC. It's actually the day that this podcast is being released. So next Tuesday. I don't have a calendar, so I can't say the date right now. But it's coming out. It's going to be in the time slot of This Is Us. I just saw a little preview of it, and I'm super, super, super excited about it. He was just on Jimmy Fallon, and I got to watch his interview. And, oh, man, what a cool guy. And I'm honored that he is a part of our community and is, part of this movement to make this shift, to make this change as men, and for the world and for everyone. I feel stronger than ever and more convinced than ever that what we have is something really special and that we're going to make an impact, and we already are. And now I'm envisioning this impact being bigger and bigger and bigger. So huge thanks to Josh for this podcast and all the love and well wishes on your new projects. So thank you to all the listeners. Thanks to Josh. Thanks to you guys that participated at this retreat. You're literally, truly changing my life over and over. And again, I'm humbled and happy.
Hypnotizing.
Well, we'll just dive right in. This is officially, we were just talking about being a night owl or not, and I'm not. This is the latest. Starting time of any podcast.
Is that right?
So yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
If you nod off, I can nudge you.
Yeah, flick me in the nose, whatever you need to do. Yeah, I'm not a night person. I am actually, and it came about like with all the years I spent living and sleeping outside, that when the sun
your body's on like the natural rhythms.
It just goes.
Yeah.
It just goes.
Yeah. I think that's how we're supposed to be. These fluorescent lights have screwed us up.
Well,
how's the lighting in here? Speaking of lighting, are you good?
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
All right.
You good?
Yeah.
Is it too sleepy?
No.
Are you a night person?
The older I get, I find that I can't sleep in anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just wake up super early.
Yeah.
So if I want a good night's sleep, I have to get it on the other end. Like I can't sleep in. Remember when you're a kid and you're like, I remember I used to come home from college and I'd sleep till like 1:30.
Yeah.
And my dad would be like, the day's done.
What do you think? Maybe it's just repetition. It gets bred out, or it gets like beat out.
I think it's actually nature's way of getting you to enjoy the morning, like shifting the energy towards the morning and productivity and starting your day and enjoying those. Because I love the morning.
Yeah.
And if I pop up, my eyes pop open early, and I'm not like wanting to hit a snooze button or anything. Like I love it. I'll just start my day.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you start your day super early, your day is really long, and you actually, if you use the time well, you're like, wow, you can do a lot in a day.
It's true, unless you have a tiny little human being that wakes up.
That's right. Everything I say should, with the caveat, I do not have children. So,
well, it's true for me. I love the morning, and I love my mornings. And I actually, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but I find my most creative moments are from when I wake up until probably 9 a.m. And so it doesn't really matter when that starts. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 7. But I have this incredible sustained, like,
are you a coffee person?
I'm not.
You're not.
I actually can't be. I was for a long time, and it made my heart hurt itself. So
do you do any sort of caffeine?
I can't anymore.
You can't do any?
Yeah, I can't. It gives me heart palpitations.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always in a struggle with coffee. I'm on and I'm off. I'm currently very on it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like the caffeine fueled morning writing burst or creativity or songwriting or there's also that sometimes you'll have the perfect amount of coffee where it's just like you're so coffee optimist. Just like, wow, like I can do anything. If I got the bean.
So for me now, so I don't say I don't do any caffeine. I don't do much. I actually had some this weekend. I had probably, I don't know, a thumb's worth in a mug, maybe 2 thumbs at the most. And I've been drinking these adaptogenic, just herbal infusion stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been mixing that with just like a shot of coffee, really like a shot or 2. That feels pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, with the system that's not used to it.
If you don't drink coffee for a while and then you have like a ton of coffee, you're like, this is like liquid cocaine that everyone is on in the morning everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
do you drink it through the day?
No. I have that nervous system. Like I have to stop by noon or I'll be up at night.
Yeah.
Like I got noon, maybe pushing it as 1 o'clock, but I have to cut it off. But from the time I wake up until then, I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Not like ridiculous, but enough that I get that optimism going.
Well, let me take a moment. Thank you for hosting me here in your home, and
so good to have you here.
Yeah, we just had a lovely dinner, and I'm actually getting. We're not going to talk about beverages this entire time, but I appreciate the tea too. My my wife Elise, and she's passionate about tea.
Oh, is that right?
I hated tea. I'm starting to enjoy tea.
That was part of your marriage compromise.
Yeah,
I love tea.
Getting into tea.
If you hunt.
So we just got finished with our most recent Everyman event at Joshua Tree, and again was honored to have you participate and go through it. And so we have a shared experience now.
Yeah,
we have a shared.
Yeah, it was a powerful weekend. Yeah. I was super grateful for it, and it wasn't. I always find the best things are never like sustained euphoria.
Yeah.
It's like the best things are the times where you're like, oh yeah, I really struggled and I really was hurting that moment. And then I came out of it and I really connected with someone. Yeah. Then I hated someone. Yeah. Like whatever it is, it's like, what I feel like what we're longing for is not a perfectly blissful experience, but a complete experience. And
Amen,
that's what I
man.
had this weekend.
Amen.
It was complete.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. The term that I like, or the phrase that I like, is full spectrum or broad spectrum.
Totally,
right?
yeah.
Like just like fill out that sucker.
I always think about there's parts of our mind that just want everything to be easy, and everything to be fun, and nothing. We
want food to taste good only.
No sacrifice, no waiting, no whatever your mind cooks up, right? In terms of what it thinks it would be. But then because I'm a storyteller essentially across a lot of different spectrums. If you think about a good story, if you're an author, you would never. The whole point is obstacle.
Of course.
The whole point is transformation. The whole point is going through the dark wood. So you're trying when you write to throw as many obstacles at your protagonist as you can. Yeah. So if the universe or God, call it whatever, is this kind of master storyteller, like it's gonna get creative on you.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna throw up the very things that will be in your way that will ask you to change and transform.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's necessarily worthwhile investigating where that desire for ease came from, because it's real. It is real. Mm-hmm. That just like, can't we just hang out here where it's nice,
sipping tea?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, and the weekends are for me too. And this weekend particularly, I had my own roller coaster throughout it, and
you helped me through a tough moment, and if someone said, should I do one of those, I'd be like, yeah, but you got to be up for like to hit some pockets of. I mean, that was my experience. Like, I hit some pockets of resistance, and I hit some some logistical things, but the sweetness of the final circle. Of what everyone was sharing and how open everyone was, like I wouldn't trade that for anything. Like that. Yeah. That you almost. Yeah. That's what I felt like we earned. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every twist and turn along the way earns you the sweetness of that connection and that vulnerability and that, that brotherhood, which is like, I even feel weird saying that word because
it's a tough word.
It's a tough word.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find almost like a tougher language for some of this stuff.
Me too, man.
Because I have an allergy to kind of woo-woo spirituality, even though I can speak that language. It never rests easy.
We have that same exact,
you know what I mean?
Experience.
Yeah.
Actually, I think in a lot of ways, what Everyman is very much a linguistic operation. I mean, it's not, right? But my part of it in being able to speak it and share it and show people what we actually do, it's very tricky. Yeah. It's very tricky, but it is the, and there's so many different, I think taboo is too strong of a word, but there's like, you can find yourself wandering into the woo-woo hippie language. It's like, oh, that doesn't feel good. And then you wander the other direction and it's like this hardcore
like
male
Robert Bly drum screaming.
Right. And then there's like the balls and the overly masculine thing. It's like, God, that doesn't feel good either. Yeah. So like what I'm trying to do with everything is to be as descriptive as possible. Simply just descriptive. Like this is the experience itself.
Yeah.
Let that speak for itself and not try
I did feel like you guys did a great job at not over-explaining things. It was kind of like, we're not going to sit around and talk about this. We're going to do it, and here's what we're doing. Yeah. And now get up and do it. And there's something, especially for men who have a tendency to be overly analytical, or at least me, it's like, tell me everything. Like, tell me everything so I know what I'm getting into. Yeah. And it's a great thing to be able to yield or just fall into process rather than processing.
Yeah, it's intentional because with enough of that set up, then it's so hard to find our way through the am I doing it right? Is this what it's supposed to be? Do I agree
don't
with
have that
this?
much time, you know? It's like
that's
it's
true
a weekend.
Too. Yeah.
My mom always used this. She used to teach parenting, and she used this metaphor that I think is applicable to everything, which was, she said, good parenting is like holding a wet bar of soap. If you hold it too tight, it falls out. If you don't get enough of a grip, it falls out. Just like finding that sweet spot.
That's cool.
And I feel like you guys are in that because I can feel you even adjusting the knobs throughout the weekend. Yeah. Because you also have to adjust to what the energy. I mean, there were 54?
Yeah, 54 guys.
So that was a bigger group than you've done.
Yeah.
It was also like the West Coast. You'd never done it on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's, that's I directed 2 films, and it's like, you start off with a plan in the morning, right? And that's not what you're going to end up with throughout the day. It's course correction. Yeah, And I think one of the things about being like a male who can lead, and it's so funny because it's like, it drives me crazy in American politics where they elevate like certitude to some sort of virtue. Like, I will never
just being
deviate
certain. Is
from
that what certitude is?
Like what I campaigned on, and then facts change, and you don't, and then you're accused of being whatever, flip flopper or inconsistent. Whereas I think like it's a great thing to be adaptable when facts change.
Yeah, Aaron was using that. Aaron Blaine, who's here, was using that word to describe what we were doing, and he used the word malleable, but I think adaptable is maybe even more accurate. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like. And for guys who have done what we do, they'll probably get this, and maybe for those who haven't, maybe get it too. But in essence, like what I see us doing are, this is just one way to describe it. 2 simple things. We show up all the way. We're just there with the group, with each other, with you, with whatever that is, and then we just fucking stick with it. Yeah, and that means so many things. But it, like, in its essence, it's like. That's really it. So like showing up to be present and being willing to just stay there and just that practice.
You know what else it strikes me is hard for men, especially men in our, been conditioned in our culture. Yeah. Is like, well, why? Like, what am I going to show? What am I going to show for myself? Am I going to get a diploma? Yeah. It's going to help me get a better job afterwards. Yeah. Am I going to get, what are the cash and prizes, right? Because we're so rigged around expectation and reward,
totally,
risk reward, or whatever. And this is just like, we got nothing for you, but we're gonna hold space for you to like, be rather than do.
Yeah, it's so tough. That's such a good point, man, and it's so interesting because we can go there. We can say why, because we can be descriptive about what's happening for men that are doing this.
Right.
You know, we can talk about how marriages come back together.
Right.
And we can talk about how people who've never had relationships are able to take that risk to go there.
Right.
And there's a million things we can say, but it's all so individualized. It's so pluralistic in its essence, you know. It's like, how do you take the beauty of one man's entire existence and be there to supplement it, right? And do it all together.
And also that you guys said, you know, there was 54 people creating an experience together.
Yeah.
So to tell you what that experience is going to be like in the absence of those 54 co-creators, you can't really say.
Yeah.
So you are asking people to take. I mean, I just went because my friend John, our friend John, who I trust immensely, and I've been on lots of adventures with him. He was like, because he was in Yellowstone with you guys, and he was like, it was really powerful, and he invited a couple of us, and for whatever reason, I was the one who sent in the registration fee. I don't know why. I didn't even do a lot of hand wringing over it. I was just like, had a full body yes. And I was like, all right, I'll do it.
So what's your tell me a little bit about your relationship and your past, both to you know, I don't know, your own journey, but then also specifically in the male context too, as a man. Just where are you coming from in that whole world?
You mean like kind of what did I bring to Friday? Like what happened up until Friday?
I guess like your background. Your background and so your the water you swam in terms of being a man and
yeah. Well, let me take a moment with that. I'm gonna. What is it? Relax, open, and connect.
Relax, open, and connect.
Exactly. Let me relax and open, and then I'll connect with you. I just I don't want to answer this question too rashly, but I mean, I the first male of my life was my dad, and he continues to be an important presence in my life. I do have, and my dad will tell you this, that he didn't quite take an interest in us as much until we were like 10, 11, 12. Like we had to kind of develop like sense of humor and, you know, kind of give back to him a little bit. He wasn't like a dad who like really got down on the floor all that much and played with us. I mean, I do remember something, you know, I remember him teaching me how to ride a bike, and he did all the proper dad things, but he certainly became a little more curious about us when we were a little older.
Sure.
I do remember him coming home. He was a trial lawyer. He's retired now, but I do remember him coming home, suit, you know, dark suit, tie, you know, he wanted to be fed kind of immediately. I just remember, you know, I think he looks back fondly on his law career, and at the same time, I think it knocked a lot of life out of him in some ways, just because he took on a lot. He worked, you know, he defended doctors, but he was, you know, there were sick kids, and like, I think it maybe affected him. This is speculative. I don't know. But I do remember feeling that the 9-to-5 suit wearing thing was a grind. I just remember feeling that. Yeah. And he's a real happy retired person.
Cool.
And I think he thought it was a grind. I think he really did. And I think I lodged that somewhere in my head. Like, don't do that.
Oh, don't negative to it. Great.
Don't come, you know, don't do the suit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think some people thrive in that environment, and but I was creative, and I was always creative. I had asthma when I was a kid, so I'd have these asthma attacks, and my mom would get me, you know, art supplies, my dad was, we were real active in the library, so I remember going to the library and coming home with stacks of books. Yeah, you know, and that was like a gold mine.
Do you remember your favorite, or one or two?
I remember. I loved a book called The Pushcart War, which is about these truckers who get in the war with these pushcart people in New York City. It's kind of a classic. You know what I got really into? I remember just loving so much the S.E. Hinton books, like The Outsiders and Tex and Rumblefish. Did you ever read those?
I didn't know, and I was a crazy reader.
They were amazing. I mean, I think I was, I don't know, 11 or something when I read those. 10. I don't know. Yeah. But I fell for those. I remember getting really into Stephen King, like in junior high and high school, but I was a big reader when I was a kid, and I was also a visual artist. I hadn't done any theater I never did any theater really till high school. I did like a little Shakespeare thing in junior high, but I was a creative kid. Looking back, I always loved art classes and stories. I loved reading mythology. Yeah, I was super into. But I was like this interesting mix of being a creative kid and a really good student. So I excelled in school, and I didn't think school was that hard.
Yeah.
You know, I did the bare minimum work to get the most effect, and I did really well.
And were you socially successful, and did you connect?
You know, I went to this private, like a religious school until high school. I went to this Orthodox Hebrew day school.
Oh, wow.
So it was like half day English, half day Hebrew. I think I got a great love of like story and text, and you know, all those Old Testament stories like loom large in my consciousness. You know, Moses I've always loved that archetype.
Yeah.
You know,
something about the Old Testament.
Yeah.
In storytelling. I've written a couple book length novels, and they're not out there, but
it's deep.
But both of them I revisited things in that.
And you know, I remember this transition. I graduated with 12 people from my 8th grade class. And then I went into this high school that was like, I don't know, there were like 180 people in my class, 150 people, I don't know. And I remember there was a trauma in coming into that high school, because it was really socially kind of sharky, and I was in this little protected kind of thing I'd been in since kindergarten. And I mean, it coincided with what I was 14 or just turned 14, and it was hard. It was hard going into a new school, and I remember being very self-conscious. But that said, I did super well there in terms of my grades were terrific, and it was cool to be smart there. It wasn't like a problem.
Yeah.
And I was the captain of the swim team, and I wrote on the school paper, and I was my class president my senior year.
Yeah.
So and I was friends with a lot of people. I had and I'm still really tight with my high school friends.
Cool.
So I had a good experience there, but I remember feeling like, am I wearing the right thing? Like, am I saying the right thing?
That's interesting. We have something in common there too. So I was in North Dakota at my school. I was in a class of 12 or 13 until 7th grade.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Fargo, North Dakota. And for 1 year in 8th grade, I had 1,200 kids in my class. So, but then we moved to a place where I had 150, and I graduated. I spent 4 years there.
Yeah.
So that arc of a small little safe community
Yeah.
into a larger one I was familiar with too.
And I don't think I think adolescent trauma is like inevitable. Like you're gonna get it.
Yeah,
it's just,
something.
Your body's changing. It's so confusing, and the hormonal thing. Like I remember hearing you talk about on the podcast with Elise that that feeling of like your body. Were you the one who said that puberty is like having a Ferrari engine dropped into a
go-kart? Yeah.
I do remember that where I suddenly, my body had matured. My brain had not matured.
Yeah.
My body was like asking for everything.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I don't know, I might have been like 19 or 20. And I remembered feeling like there's a lot I want to do, and my sex drive's getting in the way of it. It's like distracting. And I remember, I don't know if it was a prayer, but I remember saying to whoever, like in my head, like, you got to dial this down. Like, you got to dial this down. I don't know what to do with all this energy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, mine was a similar conversation, but it wasn't very gentle with myself. It was scary. I was scared.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
You know,
and no one, my parents, like, I actually told a guys this a couple weekends that we were like, we're talking about like who told you about sex and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't know, I made something, and I was at the sink, and I must have been 12, 13, and I was washing these dishes, and my parents came home. It's like a Saturday morning, and I heard them hovering behind me. I heard my mom just go, "Talk to him." So my dad comes up behind me, and he just puts both his hands on my shoulders, and he says, "Son, condoms." And then he walks away.
Oh, man.
And that was the big talk.
Thanks, Dad.
That was the big talk.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it landed.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. But, it's a weird thing where it's like in American homes, most of them, I imagine, it's like there's either the safe sex talk or the don't do it talk. Right. Like it just, and it feels like both of them, I'm still figuring out what that whole sex thing is. And like, I'm not a boy. I think it takes a lifetime to unpack, especially given all the toxic messages we get in media and movies. And I mean, that's how I got educated on this stuff. Yeah. Right.
I actually envision a second version of Everyman, or just somebody else or something doing a similar thing where we create a safe enough space to just have those conversations all the way out completely and begin to seed that and like,
Yeah.
catch it earlier. Actually, that's one of my biggest drives is like all this pain we all go through, all the hurt that takes so many years to go through. And I guess it's silly to think that we can necessarily change that or should even want to, but I don't know, man. Like, I think we could talk to our kids. I think we could buffer them from some of this confusion. Confusion sucks.
I think a lot of us are carrying, I don't know if the word's like epigenetic or ancestral kind of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been times where I have located something in myself that feels like, actually it was in a medicine ceremony in Brazil, in one of my first times working with medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I felt something come up in me and I was like, okay, something huge is coming out of me or wants to come out of me. And I was like, it's from my mother's side of the family and goes back generations.
You could just tell.
I could just tell. I knew it was from my mom's side of the family and I purged. I felt it come out of me, but it was so clear. It went back generations on my mom's side. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but it was, and I sometimes feel like we're, part of the reason for doing this kind of work or just being a conscious, heart-centered man in a society which does everything to discourage that is part of like, I don't want to pass this on.
Yeah.
It stops now.
It stops
right?
here.
Like the grief, or the inability to grieve, whatever that is.
Yeah.
The tough thing, a lot of people have it with addiction, So that's what that I
or
was
abuse,
exactly.
That's one of the huge ones that's passed on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it takes, the humility. So at the end of the retreat, that's what I kind of left with or shared at the very end was just this overwhelming humility. And it is every time that I see a man do that and say, no more, my family, not my son, no.
Yeah.
It is, holy, it's so, what else are we here for?
Yeah.
There's, have lots of answers to that, but in my I guess simplistic heart, that's why I think that's important.
I also feel like there's a kind of selection process, at least that I went through around my parents, where I was like, I'm taking that was terrific.
Yeah.
I'm fully on board with that. Yes. It's like I'm loading up my pack with all this good stuff that I got from him. Yeah. And some of the stuff I want to drop. Like, I wasn't down with that, And I don't even think, that's not even a condemnation of them, because if I have kids, I expect them to go through that process.
Sure.
Sure. That feels, there should be some sort of, generational reflection on what came before and be like.
And so you've done an immense amount of personal reflection and different work, right?
Maybe too much.
Maybe too much.
I don't know. There's that danger too.
When did that start for you?
The reflection and everything?
Yeah, call it what you will. Yeah. So, personal work, whatever it is. Like,
I think I've always been drawn to, like what is this thing in me?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And I've had some mystical experiences where I would call them mystical, where I don't even know if I hear a voice. I just know something. Like, I know what the next right move is, or I know where I'm supposed to go, or what step I'm supposed to take, or who I'm supposed to reach out to. So I always felt like I had this thing that if I just got quiet enough, I started to hear something that felt true. And I also was raised with these stories that once I was more awake and aware in the world, I thought, not everyone's Jewish. There's this thing called Christianity, and there's this thing called Buddhism and Hinduism, and you know what I mean. And I just got a taste for the different ways to learn about oneself, and also how similar they were, with just different language. And I just have always had a taste for spiritual wisdom, and like perennial truths, like things that. I think there's a lot of things that we, you look back on the 90s and you're like, wow, we were making jokes like that, and they're not funny anymore. Like, you can't make those jokes. Right. And I think a lot of that's appropriate. It's like we're updating our sense of empathy and our understanding of ourselves and others in the world. But there's other things that are true that will always be true.
Right.
And I like leaning into those, because especially when things get confusing, you know, like right now, like it feels like the collective's really confused and there's a lot of friction and tension and all sorts of things. That's when I think it's what my friend Rob Bell calls, he says there's too much treble, we need more bass. Yeah. And the bass is like the hum of like the primordial hum, right? Like the Mongolian chanting we heard, the throat chanting. It's just like that ancient bass hum that is just true. And it's the vibrational frequency foundation of everything. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times I have to tune into that, because I will swim. Like I will, you know, be like, who's Mueller going to indict next or whatever. And I'm thinking that is part of, and that's important in terms of like the day's headlines, but I don't know if that's important like for my hero's journey on the earth right now. I think a lot of times I use treble to distract me from bass. Sure. You know?
So how do you personally find that bass? Like what is your process?
I mean, I do a lot of reading. I have strong friendships that I lean into. Like, got it. Like I had a moment of like deep imbalance today, and I had some stuff to do that required me to really show up. And I was rattled by something that I was talking to you guys about earlier, and which is understandably rattling. We don't have to go into it now. Yeah. But I was driving and I called a friend of mine, my friend Ciela, who you've met. Yeah. And she's just someone that, like, she's a little, I mean, we talk when we can talk, but she's also like a break glass in case of emergency friend. And I'm the same for her. It's like backs against the wall. You know, she reminds me of who I am and what I'm up to. Trent, John, these guys that you know now.
Yeah, you got good people around.
Yeah,
you.
Exactly.
Really good people.
And I think you know, becoming known from, I was on this TV show for 9 years that got very popular, and I think I sensed somehow that if I didn't have good people around me, I could get really lost. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people that just want to hook on to that train, whatever that they think that is. Totally. And you've got to, I found I had to get really, I had to read people quickly, like size them up and be like, and a lot of my friends are not in show business. They're people that I just found to be excellent humans. And a lot of them also hilariously like had never even seen my show. You know, like a friend of ours was waiting to, when she's like, I heard that all these people were talking about your show and they were saying how great, and she's like, people really watch your like, she thought I was on like I don't know, a public access show or something.
I'm slightly ignorant too. I don't think I've ever seen it. Tell me about it. I'd like to hear a little bit about it. Like just, I mean, I know it's a huge thing, a huge part of your life, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's a huge part of my life in a way that it changed a lot of my life. Okay. And it gave me a lot of opportunities, and it freed me up to live a creative life. Yeah. I was just talking with John about this. I have this very conflicted relationship with that show because I played a really, really vulnerable man on TV.
You did?
I did. Oh. And some people, he's their favorite character that in television history. Whoa. And some people hate him. Like
for the vulnerability.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying sure. I think you might have talked to other people about that, but there's this part of me that's like a little embarrassed about it. Yeah. And it's because it's so funny. It's so funny that I was asked to demonstrate what this looks like what male vulnerability looks like. And a lot of times I didn't want to be doing it. Right. Like I wanted
Can you give an example? Like what would something that your character would be vulnerable about?
Well, on some level, the things I liked about him, he was an incredibly great friend. Okay. I connected to that. He was incredibly loyal. I loved that. He was really goofy, but he would get like lovelorn kind of over these women. And you know, it was weird. I pulled parts of myself and lent them to the character, but then the show got so popular that suddenly people thought I was the character. Right. And then suddenly you're in this weird prison hall of mirrors where you're like, who? And then you say something. I don't know. This is such a rabbit hole for me. Sure. But but I found that imprisonment, that identity imprisonment, to be really destabilizing. And I made other things and did other things, but nothing eclipsed the popularity of that show.
Sure.
And look, I've heard from prisoners, I've heard from people, stationed overseas, who like that show saved their lives, people going through all sorts of horrible things. And I'm like, well, I participated in something that gave people a lot of joy, that kind of had this antidepressive thing for people. And I'm grateful for that. But I also, it's almost like, I actually told someone this today. It's like if you had relatives and they only wanted to talk about you in 6th grade. Yeah. And you're like, I've done a lot since then. And I don't mean to diminish the show, because it was quite good, but it does feel like a very young part of me that is just not me anymore. Sure. Or if it ever was.
Were you able to, I guess I keep wanting to ask you about your creativity in general, which is a big thing, obviously, but in that process, during that show, did you stay connected to whatever it is in you, your creative fire?
Oh yeah. Was it good? I mean, in some ways it put more fire in me.
Oh, cool.
Because it didn't, and our director Pam Fryman told me this, like the 3rd episode, she's like, you're going to have to do other things. This show's not going to fulfill you creatively. Cool. Yeah. It's not going to give you everything you need. So I wrote and directed 2 movies and starred in them, both of which went to Sundance and were released in theaters. Like, awesome. I turned myself into a film director, almost out of restlessness,
Yeah.
And fell in love with it completely. And, I was always doing theater, so that's where I came from. Yeah. But I was writing. I wrote a book that I ended up not publishing. I'm writing another book right now. But I found I really, my second year, my first 2 years on the show, I was drinking a ton. I was with a lot of women. It was just like I was doing what I thought a person on a successful TV show was supposed to do. Like, this is the cash and prizes. Like, this is what you do.
When it started?
I think I did the pilot at 29, and when it was 30, the show started. And then it ran for 9 years. We did 208 episodes. But after the second season, I found myself depressed, kind of bloated, drinking too much. Alcohol was becoming a thing that I was like, oh, well, I didn't know it, but I ended up going to Brazil, and I did, some ayahuasca in Brazil. And I ended up, working with plant medicine it just became my church, it became like a way. I love the community. I love the people I met there. I think I was so afraid that the environment that I was in was inauthentic, that I was like hungry. I was like, I got to root myself to something that feels real. Yeah. So I did a lot of medicine, and I learned, I had some teachers that really impacted me, and then I had to leave them. But I had this whole side journey going on during that show, where I had my own creative projects. I had my spiritual life, which felt really robust and exciting, and sometimes freaky, But I also had, when people would ask me what was going on in my life, like How I Met Your Mother was like the 5th or 6th thing I would think about. Yeah, it just wasn't primary in my life, even though it was this great day job. But it was so important to other people. So I was the victim of a lot of projections. I don't know if victim is the right word, but you know what I mean? Like
the recipient.
People project a lot onto you. Yeah. And so you got to find some way to stay healthy in that. And some things I did, I stand by, and other things I don't know. But I do know that it's a weird state of affairs, that there are very few people you can talk to about it, because my actor friends who weren't working, it's not like you're going to be like, I got to complain about being on this hit show. Of course. The circle becomes small, so you can feel very isolated. Yeah. And a couple guys this weekend like kind of revealed to me at the end of the weekend that they knew who I was, and they were.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Did anybody immediately recognize
some
you?
people.
Some did.
Some people. Yeah. I think there's a. But it was interesting, because I'm like, oh yeah, like I have this face that people have watched.
I've seen before.
Yeah. And on some level that can be amazing, because like I went to Spain when I was writing my second movie, Liberal Arts, for a month, and I just kicked around. But everywhere I went, I would be recognized. So people would want a picture, and I'd get into a conversation, and then they'd be like, we're going to a flamenco show later. Do you want to come? And I'd be like, yeah.
Cool.
And I met so many cool people, and it was like my face was like this friend finder. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Cool.
And I've always wanted the world to feel smaller. Yeah. So it does do that. Yeah. So there's big benefits to it. Yeah. And also, I think I have to chip away at certain. Some people just think because if you're a successful actor in Hollywood, they just think you're going to be a dick, or they just think that you don't have good values, or you know what I mean.
Really, is that
there's a lot of preconceived notions about actors, or they think you're going to be real like actory, right? You know, like super dramatic, always need to be the center of attention, narcissist. And you know, if I have a propensity towards those things, I fight against them. Yeah. And I also find I try to. One of the things I liked the most about that last circle we did this weekend was I had this really comforting thought, which was, I'm no better than any of these people. Nice. I'm also no worse than any of these people. Yeah. Like it felt like a thought that put me in reality. Nice. Where I was right sized. Yeah. You know about these things, and because I think I can carry both a sense of superiority and inferiority all at once into a room. Yeah. And a lot of people said like I looked angry at the start of the weekend, and I came in, I was like smiling. I thought I was smiling. I thought I was like talking to everyone, and they're like, "No, you seemed really sad and kind of angry." And I was like, "Is that the face I was wearing?"
So as I think back, I didn't feel sad or angry, but I felt deeply concerned
about me.
Yeah, that's what I saw you carrying.
Oh, I was deeply concerned.
Yeah, like
you know, this is something I got from my dad. Like if I'm a little afraid of something, I get super analytical, like super heady. Yeah. I think this is common, right? But totally. I also get kind of judgy. Yeah. And I really noticed it this weekend. I was like, you're uncomfortable and you're in judgment. Yeah. You know? And then once I got comfortable, like I said, you know, once I sang those songs on Saturday night, I suddenly felt comfortable and the judgment stopped. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm curious. Like, so this weekend in particular, did you get to a place where, like with your small group towards the end, like did you get to a place where you felt uninhibited and unhampered by the recognition that people have, or is there still was there still something?
Well, I had to, in my final group, when we were doing the growth statements, and we you know, I had to tell them what was coming up for me this week and how I could use my growth statement to spur me on, you know, out onto the edge. So what I have coming up this week is I'm going to New York to help promote this show that I'm on called Rise. And I'm pretty sure I was the only guy there this weekend who's going to be on Jimmy Fallon this week.
I think you're right.
You know what I mean?
I think you're right.
So in that way, I realized that like my life has an element to it that is so different than everyone else's. So different. Yeah. Again, not better or worse, just like that's the facts, you know? So I had to tell them that, but it felt like I was otherizing myself somehow, or you know what I mean? Yeah. They were super cool. The guys in my group.
Well, what an awesome opportunity though, honestly. Like in this type of space, whether it was fully successful or not, like what an awesome opportunity for a guy, you know, who knows what he does, just a normal dude. Yeah. And he gets to be there with you as you talk about this in just a truthful way.
Exactly.
Right? And what a gift,
and
man.
People did say that. They're like, wow, I was nervous to talk to you because I knew the show and I liked it. I watched it. And the best thing I can hear is like, you're just a cool dude. Yeah. Like that really makes me so happy, because it's not, I think I also used to have like, I was insecure. Like I thought like, I need everyone to know that I'm super charming and really smart and talented and funny. Yeah. And I would come in like with a leaf blower in people's face. Like I need you to know this because I can't relax until you know how great I am. One of the mercies of getting older for me is I just don't come into rooms like that anymore. Yeah. I feel like I can let things unfold. Yeah. And I also feel like, you know how we do the exercise where you're kind of like, you're looking at someone and you tell them what you're seeing. Yeah. Something's happening. Is
Aaron moving some furniture?
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. But you're the thing that's astonishing about that exercise is like, you get it. You
Yeah.
nail them.
Yeah, right?
You don't know their name. You don't talk to them.
Right.
You look in their eyes and you tell them who they are.
Yeah.
And we're actually loud, like energetically.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
you can see the kind of steely focus in people's eyes. You can see the compassion in people's eyes. You can see all that. The other thing that's I found fascinating about that is like when you're talking about another guy, you're also talking about yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And,
totally.
and when you're blessing, you know, what I would wish for you, right?
Yep.
I realized I was blessing myself. I mean, I was fully talking about him, but there was nothing that I said to that guy that I didn't wish for myself. Yeah. And then you realize, like, we're the same. This is just God having a conversation with itself. Like, that's all it is. You know?
And you know what, man? I mean, I agree all the way. And back to that language thing, which we started with too. Like, I think there's a lot of guys that phrase, God experiencing whatever, doesn't totally make sense and feels a little weird. But even in just the most simplistic way that like it's just. Like we're just not as different as we think. We're not as separate. Like as much as we try to be other, as much as we try to be separate, as much as even if we're not trying to do it, we just kind of assume we are, right?
Yeah.
So whether you're going on Jimmy Fallon or, you know, somebody's father is sick or there's all these reasons we can say, you know, we're way different.
Yeah.
What the heck do we have
It's
for
what
each
Ram
other?
Dass says, you know, like whatever's happening in your life, that's just your yoga in that moment.
Yeah.
Like his was having a stroke.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a beautiful movie.
Oh, Fierce Grace? Yeah, it's incredible. Well, I would like to clarify, when I say God, I think that word is so triggering for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't mean like an old bearded guy in the sky directing things. Like, totally. I mean like foundational truth. I mean that hum, that bass note, which is like the prime, like where everything springs from. I don't know what that is, you know, but I do know that like I'm a part of it and you're a part of it, and we probably contain the seed and spark of all of it within us, you know?
Absolutely. So great. So to go back to something you said the, I don't know what that is. So you used to have this thing where you want to come into a room and show people your beauty, your brilliance, whatever that is. Those weren't.
I just needed them to know that I was like a cool person, smart person. Yeah.
So, and you sunk in this weekend after you got to get up on stage and sing. Yeah. So is that like the light? Is that like that? Is there a connection between those two? But this is like I don't know, because when you said that, well, I automatically thought about you. Oh yeah, you came and you showed yourself on stage, and then you were comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that because I've been writing songs with my friend Ben for about 2.5 years, and I've been playing guitar, and I played a couple songs for you guys the other night, and all I can say is I think it has less to do with I'm talented or I'm and more to do with this is where my joy lives right now.
Amazing. Good.
This is where it is. Yeah. And when I got to share my joy, I could feel that other people saw me in my joy. Yeah. And they were joyful. And then I could find them in their joy. You know what I mean? It's
I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the things. Like the idea of a talent show, like on a weekend, is a little bit cheesy, but I think that might be it. Like we get to share that part of ourselves with each other, and that's amazing. Yeah, and it's necessary. Like I don't want to do anything that's just, you know, I think a lot of guys have a conception that coming to something like this is just crying or it's just anger, but that's just not true.
Yeah, that was the goofiest part of the weekend. Yeah, you know,
yeah, totally.
It had the biggest laughs. It had the most unexpected laughs.
Yeah, and for some guys, that's actually the biggest challenge they could face, right? Yeah, to put something they've been working on out there to others. I mean, we had a guy at one of our retreats had, just an incredibly accomplished musician, had never played live for anyone in his entire life. Oh wow! And he just made people cry. It was so beautiful. Yeah. You know? So it's a cool opportunity.
I'm so moved by also almost like the accidental poetry that comes out of these people. Yeah. You know, when you get people in their hearts, it's like everyone is supremely eloquent. Right. I mean, I keep going back to that last circle, but like there wasn't a single person who spoke, and there were 54 guy. There wasn't a single person that spoke that I wasn't like, that was amazing. Right. Like every single one was amazing. Yeah. And every single one ended on a moment of triumph that was 100% supported by the room. So then you got, like you come there and you're this scared, isolated male in America, and you leave and you've got 54 guys literally cheering you on and wanting like the best for you. Yeah. You know,
cheering the core of you to come out more. Yeah. Right.
And I would like to stress again how hard moments of that weekend were, you know, because, I think I have a bit of a like lone wolf, or you know what else was tripping me up? I was like, I've done a lot of work.
Right.
I've done a lot of work.
Totally.
Some of these guys haven't. I don't know why I need to participate. It was such a dodge on my part. It was such a way to not engage. Yeah. To actually, again, that was superiority, right? And then inferiority was like the broiness, you know, like I was like, that brought my 14-year-old out who thought I wasn't masculine enough or wasn't cool enough or, you know, wearing the right thing or saying the right thing, whatever. Yeah. So it brings up everything. And my relationship with men, I told you, like, I'm scared of large groups of men. I never wanted to be in a fraternity. That sounded like a nightmare to me. Yeah. Like, I want the women around.
Yeah. That the superiority, inferiority thing is interesting. And so one way that we do address that, and I try to practice this in my life too, is just in general try not to maximize or minimize anything. Yeah. Right? And it's so hard. I mean, when I plug into this and I start listening to people, I do it all the time. People do it all the time. But, you know, if I can just tell you the simple fact or the truth, whatever that is, without saying it's really this or it's just like, oh, a little of that, you know. And I'm very sensitive to it. I feel it everywhere I go. Yeah. And I watch TV shows. I'm like, why though? You know.
Yeah. But the judger, it's like it's a real active thing in our brain, and the labeler, the categorizer. Yeah. You know, like, you're this. Yeah. I got you figured out. I put you in this file. Boom. You're done. And then there's no space for that person to disprove unless you're kind of open.
Yeah. It just kind of grinds to a standstill. Yeah. In a sense, things do. Yeah. 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 I'm glad you keep coming back to that last hour and a half of these retreats is I mean, I think that, you know, filming it would take away some of its magic, or it'd be hard to do it right. But there is something really just beautifully human that happens there. And
it's also like, as I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't sound glib or anything, but like, as a person who directs movies and like is interested in authenticity in the way people communicate. Yeah. Like, everyone's giving an Oscar-winning performance at that last at that last circle, because they're so dropped in and they're so speaking, they're just unveiled. There's like the veil got lifted. Yeah. And there's I really, I'll remember that forever. It was such a there was just a lot of power in that room. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. And it took 2 days to get there. Yeah. Totally. But that's not that's not that long. Yeah. If the container is held right, you know. You guys did I was very impressed with what you guys are up to.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's cool. Yeah. And I think, like I said to you, you know, the first half feels like a kind of tour of modern masculine pain. Yeah. And then the second half is kind of like some light at the end of the tunnel, like a possible way out.
Totally. And you know, the way that we contextualize that is the beginning is really getting in touch with what we feel, and there's a natural swing to what we want and where we're going. And I think the beauty starts to come out in that transition. I did want to ask you briefly though, you had, am I right in thinking that listening to the podcast that Elise and I did maybe opened a door to you participating? Or was there something John had mentioned was there something in that had
I can't recall if I had already signed up by the time I listened to the podcast, or if I followed it. I think, you know, we'll have to ask John.
Yeah. I was just curious as what your read was on that, or what spoke to you about
the podcast?
About that conversation. Yeah.
Well, I know Elise, but not as well as you. But I haven't seen her for quite a while, and I didn't know. I'd never, you know, gotten her relationship history or anything. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. But John had spoken so highly of you, and it's funny because we were talking about Ciela. Like, Ciela was like, you know, you have a brother, his name is John Morrow, you need to meet him because he's going to be your great friend. Yeah. And John did the same thing with you. He's like, we've got this new brother, his name is Dan Doty, you got to meet him. So I just trusted that kind of connection. Yeah. And there was something about the way you were with her that I heard, how do I describe it? It was like, oh, that's how a man is for his wife. Like just there. And I felt like you obviously knew everything she was saying. I mean, I'm sure she surprised you at times during that, but you knew the contours of her story and everything. And I felt I felt how complicated a marriage is, and I felt you staying in it. It was just moving to me. I felt it was mature. I felt like it was a very mature conversation, and I was grateful that I got to listen to it, and it was inspiring because like I told you that Trent said to me, he realizes that it's a fantasy that he's going to marry a woman that is problem free and wound free, and that there's going to be a lot about her and her past that he's not going to want to take on. But then you don't get married. Do you know? And there must be some thing on the other side of that is worth the taking on someone else's stuff.
Oh man, yeah. No, I'd connect to what you're saying about the weekend and making sure it's clear that there's pain and hardship in our weekends before you get to that beautiful last thing, right? And then I think to me the marriage is like, well, let's just do that endlessly, right? Let's go through it, and then let's have that moment, and then we'll do it again and again and again. And I'm not married. And I think I'm rounding the bend. I used to say like, oh no, I think I'd like to get married. It was, but I was like, or not now. Like I was a little. I always think about that quote from St. Augustine where he says, "Lord, make me chaste, just not yet." And I was a little like, I'd like to get married, but just not yet. Like, give me a little more time. And there's something that's shifting in me, and where I feel, I don't know, like I feel some sort of softening, and I anything I wanted to do as a single person, like I think I did it. I know what that is. I don't know what the other thing is. And when I listened to you guys, I got a real strong glimpse. Also, my friends Ben and Ione, I really honor their marriage. You have to grab examples of the good ones. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Like, I didn't think that marriage was for me for most of my life because I just hadn't seen and collected enough good ones in my experience. You know? So,
and sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I broken in some sort of fundamental way that will not allow me to do that? But then I think, I've got this pretty good skill set of like communication.
You really do.
And I really love the feminine, and I love relating with it. I think there was just some stuff that I'm still burning through. And I don't know. I'm inspired in this moment.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering that and reflecting that back. Yeah, because that was a scary and very meaningful podcast to do, a very meaningful experience, and so it means a lot to hear. What it meant.
Another thing that just occurred to me is like, we think that people want to see perfection, but what they really want to see is struggle. I just heard two people like taking such good care of each other and working it out and also sharing it with us. Like, that was what was so generous. I mean, that was as intimate as like a couples therapy thing can be, as far as I'm concerned. And to hear you guys do that and say, hey, you can listen to this. I thought it was a very generous and brave thing, and it made me feel braver somehow.
Amazing. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're probably about wrapping up here fairly soon. What I want to hear, I guess, so after this experience, or just in general in your life, and so you have this new show, and like, it sounds like you're opening new doors to marriage or ideas to marriage. Well,
I don't know who I'm supposed to marry yet. I gotta figure that out.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge part of it, right?
That's a big deal. Yeah. But where are you headed? What do you want? What are you walking into?
I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna open. I'm gonna connect. You thoroughly brainwashed me.
I hope
no,
not.
it's true that I often will talk before I've even taken a breath or know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I almost have to find it in mid-sentence. So sometimes I'm trying to train myself to just, I can take a moment.
Yeah.
Where am I headed? I used to feel like calling myself an artist felt weird, or even thinking I had a right to live a creative life felt presumptuous.
Huh.
But I've gotten to the point where I recognize myself as like a fully, like, I'm just a creative person.
Yeah.
I'm just a storyteller.
Yeah.
I love when something is working. I love when I'm in a flow of writing, and I'm a world-class procrastinator, but like when I get there, drop into that flow, I love when a new song is coming through. I love when Ben and I crack a new song. I love sharing them with people. I love the process of making stuff. And it's like, that's something even in school when I was a kid, I loved like projects, like the creative projects. That was like really where I excelled. Yeah. And I've made that my life. So I don't have any intention of stopping that. I've kind of ensured that I can, I think of acting on television a bit as like my patron or my day job. Sure. So that I can be in a band and make movies that I don't have to worry about budgets and how much I'm being paid, or I can write articles. I just feel like I'm longing to be in a creative flow that is nourishing and exciting. So, and my life is, I get invited to some really cool places, and there are times where I feel like this might be better shared.
Okay, yeah, good. So my very last one for you, the parting question is what do you want to give?
What do I want to give?
Yeah.
I want to grant someone the space to have the dignity of their experience, and also like tell me about their day. Like that's always kind of my favorite part of the relationship, is like we come out at the end of the day and there's like, you eat a little food and you just get to tell the stories. Like, this is what happened to me out there. Do you have any advice? How'd that thing go that you had? I also want to, wherever I got at that last circle and in the last, the small groups, where I felt that quiet knowingness in my heart of my song, that idea. I'd like to, give that to someone. Yeah. Just like the pure, like I like to harmonize with someone, as a music metaphor, but it's like, I'd love to find someone or something to be in that feels, in my life's a lot. This partnership with Ben has really meant a lot to me, because I have this creative friend that I've stepped into. We committed to each other, and I know that you step into commitment in one area of your life, you end up stepping in other areas.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
So, I was on a show for 9 years where I played a single guy who was unlucky in love. And now on Rise, I'm playing a father who's been with a woman for years, and he's got 3 kids. Cool. And so just energetically, I'm stepping into that, I'm on, that feels like an energetic shift. That the fact that I'm being asked to play that feels not insignificant. I don't know about kids right now, but I certainly would. I'd be up for meeting a great gal in the world.
Cool, man. Well,
but no, it's a weird thing. I made a list in this chapter I'm writing in the book about dealing with the weirdness of having played that character for so long, and I said, these are the things I can't do in the world without reminding people of that guy. Got it. And it's literally like, wear a suit, be in a relationship, big stuff. All the stuff, because he did all the big stuff. Yeah. So then when you do all the big stuff as a person, people go, hey, you're that guy. And you're like, I'm just getting married like a human. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. Huh. If this stuff doesn't play at the end, slice it off.
Maybe.
You listen to these. I doubt it. Oh, you're going to keep all this in? I feel like
I usually do.
I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I feel like we had a really nice harmonic note to end on, and then I went.
Yeah, but I mean, again, so that's the beauty of the podcast too. You know, I mean, it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. You guys you'll either hear this or you won't. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. But,
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Yeah,
Hey, man, I'm so
honored.
glad you're here, and we'll make the bed up for you. And
Yeah.
this was cool, a nighttime pocket. You didn't fall asleep. I'm proud of you.
No, I feel myself dragging, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. You can find Josh online. Just Google him. We all know how to do that by now. His new show is called Rise. It's on NBC on Tuesdays. You can check out his music. Radnor and Lee is the band that he writes with and tours with. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm full. I'm happy. Want to have as many people involved in this as possible. If you're on the fence and you're curious, dip your toe in. We're here for you. All right, everybody. Take care.